All right, so AIM 6.12, what happened to China after Mao? And we just talked about the do now, so here we go. All right, I'll give you a second here. All right, so in the previous lesson, we talked about Mao's failures, and it mentioned that towards the end there for Mao, it really just kind of devolved into like a power struggle. So after Mao dies, he dies in 1976. He has Parkinson's disease and dies a really kind of pretty ugly and public death. There's a lot of media of him out in public in the latest stages of his life when he's really struggling with Parkinson's, kind of ugly looking. But after he dies, there's a power struggle to see who's going to succeed him. And the key players here are really two groups, mostly. One is this guy, Zhou Enlai. Okay, Zhou Enlai is one of Mao's advisors, and he was actually chosen by Mao to be his successor. So as far as the people that want to adhere kind of to Mao's wishes, this guy is the choice for the next ruler of China. And this other group of people are called the Gang of Four. These people are the ones who do a lot of the dirty work in Mao's Cultural Revolution. So they are on kind of a power trip trying to seize power for themselves also. So they feel that because they were so institutional in and instrumental in implementing Mao's Cultural Revolution, that they are the ones who are best equipped to keep China going in the direction that Mao intends. So these are the kind of key players that are vying for power in China after Mao's death. Okay, I'll give you a second here. All right, so Zhou Enlai and the Gang of Four actually will each take a crack at ruling China, and both of those teams kind of prove to be inadequate. They're not good enough. They're not powerful enough. They don't command the respect, and they can't kind of get things under control. So another person comes on the scene here, and his name is Deng Xiaoping, and this is a person whose name that we definitely have to know this person's name. So a little background on this guy. Deng Xiaoping was actually a associate of Mao during and before the Cultural Revolution. In the later stages of the Cultural Revolution, Mao thought that Deng Xiaoping was not quite communist enough for his liking, and he kind of purged him as part of that Cultural Revolution, and Deng Xiaoping disappeared for a while. So after the failure of the Gang of Four and Zhou Enlai, Deng Xiaoping kind of turns back up, and he's ready to take control of China, and he's going to kind of bring China into the modern era. So this guy is the one who's responsible for the transition between Mao and the China that we know today. The China that we know today is in large part due to a lot of the things that this guy did. So he is the one who will kind of take China from a hardcore communist country, and he will introduce what's called the four modernizations, and he will institute some democratic ideals, but China will still remain largely communist. So he will sprinkle in a little modernization and a little bit of capitalism and private ownership and things like that, but for the most part, the communism will remain. All right, one more slide. I'll give you a second. So this This picture here is one of the most famous pictures ever taken. I think it won the Nobel Prize or the Pulitzer, whichever one of those they give to photography. And this is a picture from what's called the Tiananmen Square incident. So some background. Before long, under Deng Xiaoping, a lot of people in China start asking for democratic changes, and more participation in government, more say over the economic policies in China, and just general freedom. Even today, China controls a lot of information. If you Google something in America, the search results that you get here are very, very different from the search results that you get if you Googled the same exact thing in China. Okay, that's just one example. They control a lot of media, it's state controlled, and there's a lot of, it's very tightly controlled as far as what information gets out there and what the media is allowed to report on, and et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of people in China began asking for democratic reforms to the government, and Deng Xiaoping essentially sends in the military to break up this giant protest in Tiananmen Square, including but not limited to a whole bunch of tanks. So you see in the picture here, at the bottom of the picture, this is a guy standing in front of this row of tanks. This row of tanks is proceeding down the street to break up the protest, and this guy just walks in front of them and basically tells them that if you want to advance, you're going to have to run me over. And that is the basis for this picture, one of the more famous pictures in world history as far as photography goes. We haven't had it for that long compared to, human history, so I'm sure there'll be more coming. But this ends very ugly. Eventually, that military force that they send to China opens fire on that group of protesters, and they slaughter 10,000 people, all in one incident. So this says a lot about a lot. It tells the world that the people of China want democracy, and at least a good number of them, but it also tells you the lengths that the Chinese government is willing to go to in order to maintain their ironclad grip on power and control of their population. Even now today, there is a lot of controversy over China's human rights record, for lack of a better term. Sports fans can do some digging about the relationship between the NBA, for example, and China, and there's a lot to kind of dive into there. But needless to say, this is that last stage of kind of collapse. Once we get to this in mainland China, this is pretty much the end of Mao's communism as they know it, and it's kind of this new mixed economy that will begin in China that still kind of exists there today.